Welcome back to take 2 of this week's Business and Banter podcast. This is the second time today of doing this intro because the first time Sam's internet cut out. So just pretend like she's very surprised to find out what we're talking about today because she didn't know. And I thought I'd just spring her on it, although that has backfired now. I actually think she did it on purpose and just switched her internet off after I told her so she could process. But if you're new here, welcome. my my name is Hanli and this is Sam. We've established she's only get called Samantha when she's in trouble. So Samantha, this week we're going to be talking about actually, this is the thing. There's a lot of talk in the community, and I'm saying this for the second time, but about whether we have a job, a business. And then I was watching some content and someone mentioned that we don't have a job or a business, but actually just subcontractors to the platform you sell on. Right?
Yes.
And I thought that was very interesting because to me, what you identify as in that perspective or what you are to yourself influences your mentality on the business. If I looked at what I do every day as just a job, that is not very motivating for me to build it, to grow it, to reach goals. Like I will very quickly fall into a rut if I feel like it's just a job that I just have to do every day. Whereas if I have a business and I can grow it and I can make goals, that's very encouraging to me. So personally, I've always tried to look at it more of a business. But before we get Sam's expert opinion for the second time, let's just quickly define what a business is. So according to the Oxford Dictionary, a business is, number one, a person's regular occupation, professional trade. Number two, commercial activity.
So I said that I think that I have a business, and because I, in the eyes of the Australian government, have a registered business identification number or an ABN, and I pay the relevant taxes associated with owning a business. Obviously, you're in a company structure.
Yes.
So therefore, in the eyes of the UK government, you also own a company, like you own a business. But that being said, under my business, I can actually be a subcontractor and pay the like required taxes and stuff like that. But I would go as far as to say I would see myself as a subcontractor to eBay because I don't pay marketing. Yes, I pay promoted listing fees, but I'm not in control of the advertising and marketing. I don't onboard people. I have someone to answer to when things go wrong, i.e., item not subscribed cases, feedback, etc. Like I can't just click remove because I would like to.
Yeah.
So there is some level of like overlording by eBay in that. What about you, expert Hamley?
I think one of the biggest issues in my business is the platform dependency. Right now, I'm dependent on eBay. The reason for this is eBay is the only platform who have invested and built the infrastructure to properly deal with car parts. Yes, you can go list them on another platform, but no other platform has the part compatibility, the ability for people to enter their registration numbers and get the vehicle details and be matched to parts. It's just eBay is so far ahead of the competition when it comes to parts. And to try to build that for myself, that we're talking millions to try to build that infrastructure to sell it myself. So I think very much right now, if I want to do the one by one parts to customers, I am dependent on eBay, but we've also made strides to build other parts of the business. So I don't know. I think there can be an argument made for and against it. I would like to think that it's just an avenue I use right now to. Here's my thing. My real asset and value is in how I get the product, right?
Of course.
eBay is just one of the ways in which I present it to a customer,
Of
right?
course, yeah, absolutely.
It's a very specific customer I get on eBay. I have other people who buy from me, who buy direct from me, wholesale. We have other means of bringing in income. But I think if we're going to focus specifically on platform dependency, like are we a business when we use a platform? Are we subcontractors when we use a platform? Then very much my category is locked into eBay and we have that dependency on them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And to actually step outside of that and build your own website, market it, I don't imagine that that would be the easiest of things to do. Your market is very niche. So, like a Facebook targeted ad would be very difficult.
It also won't be cheaper than the 15% I'm paying eBay.
Probably not, no. They're
Maybe in 10 years'
very
time.
difficult. Yeah.
Like it just, and I don't want to be here in 10 years' time. I don't want to be here.
You could be the
Anyway,
number one car part seller in the whole of the Scotland, Hadley.
no, so I thought we could go over some key character, help me say that word.
I don't know what word you're trying to say. Character traits?
Characteristics.
Okay.
Characteristics.
Yep.
Excuse me, people. English is not my first language. Of a business. All right. So the first
Mhm.
one they've set out is economic activity. A business engaged in activities aimed at generating revenue, usually through the sale of goods or services, which is
Tick.
what we do,
Tick. Yep.
right? Our
That's why
main
you pay taxes.
Correct. So here again, you can argue that actually one of our main goals is to generate profit, which is fine. You don't have profit without revenue. So let's just
Correct. Yep.
nip that in the bud now.
Mhm.
When we talk about revenue, we obviously want you to be profitable. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Or else there's no point having it.
yes. So why do you resell? You resell to try to generate
Mhm.
the income, the revenue, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the characteristics of having a business. So on that point, we would identify ourselves as a business,
Tick.
right? Where
Yeah.
in a job, you trade time for income.
Yes, but also there's more specifics when it comes to having a job as well. Like there's like a specific task, and usually it's only like one task that you do, whether it's like cleaning,
Yes.
landscaping, like whatever it is, like there's one task to your job. Whereas like as a business, you tend to do all facets as well. Like you do your accounting, you do the cleaning, you do the product marketing, blah blah blah. Whereas with a business as well, like if you drop one of those balls, then you're not getting a paycheck that week. But with a job, you could call in sick and still get paid.
Yes. So on to the second one, which is an organized structure. They have a defined structure, whether formal or informal, for managing operations and resources, where in a job, you're part of a structure. I think in
Yeah.
our business, we are the structure. Like we have to pick up all the parts, just as you were saying, but we also have the possibilities and the capabilities and opportunities to bring other people in to be part of the structure, to
Yeah.
delegate part of the structure. Whatever structure it is you're building for yourself. I'm a limited company in the UK, and we have brought someone on now and we are delegating certain tasks, but we also have the ability to say, this part of this I'm not good at, I'm going to get an accountant.
Correct. And also like with a business, you're able to fluctuate your income. Like you can pay yourself the necessary bonuses and stuff like that that's required. With a job, you're set to your salary and that kind of, unless you're in sales or something like that, then you can get bonuses as well. But largely it's just a fixed set rate.
Yes. So the next one is profit motive. While some business operate with social charitable missions, the core for most is to generate profit.
Yes. Tick. I like
Okay.
profit. Yes.
Yes.
For a
I think
business.
also the ability to generate as much as you want or you can. Whereas in a job, the only real way to generate more income, unless you're on some kind of commission structure, is
Mm.
to work more, trade more time.
Or be able to get more out of the time that you're already allocating through leveraging other things like either people or skills or technology, whatever it is.
That's interesting though. I just thought about this. What's the difference between a reseller and someone who does sales on a commission structure?
That's a good question. That is a really good question. Because neither in instances are the product yours. Like,
No,
technically, yes, we own the physical product, but I didn't make Ralph Lauren products. Like, I don't own the
exactly.
product. So that's really interesting because if you're on sales, like you're selling something on behalf of someone else, it's like their intellectual property that you're leveraging. Really good question.
I think one of the core differences for me between reselling and someone who does sales on commission would probably be the liability aspect.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Fair
Um,
call.
yes. Also, the scope of responsibility would change. So, where if you're doing sales commissions for a company, your scope is kind of sales, right? You sell the product.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No.
Care, admin,
Mhm.
bookkeeping, all of that falls to someone. Wait, is P sales or commission just smarter resellers who didn't want to do all the rest?
Well, I mean, there are some people that resell and don't submit taxes about it, so technically.
That's very interesting.
Hmm. I do think that the liability factor, like I know there are resellers that don't have the public liability insurance. And when I went on to the pre-love partnership program with eBay, there was a clause within the contract that they said don't talk about. So don't get me cancelled, that says that basically you're only liable up to a certain amount, and like it was really gooeyly written. So I actually took it to a lawyer before I signed it, and he was like, it basically just means you're only part liable.
Yeah,
So I don't know what would happen in the
because
end if something went wrong.
in a business, right? If you're a sole, what we call a sole trader or sole proprietor, or I don't know what you guys call it by you guys, the liability is you, your livelihood, and everything you own, right? You are the business is you. Um, in my situation, the reason why I became a limited company, almost right off the bat, was because the products I sell have a greater risk of resulting in a liability claim, and I needed to protect my private life, my family, and out from any of that, right? So
Yes.
that, yeah,
Just going to interject and say this is not financial advice.
no,
Just
no, no. I was just trying to figure out like how is this different than someone who just does sales or commission? Because if it's not different, then we are just subcontractors because we are basically sourcing products and selling them on eBay for a percentage.
So, if you're a builder and you subcontract to a company, you go to work, you send them an invoice, they pay the invoice, and you're required to manage all your accounting and stuff like that, required to that. But then you also have to like advertise yourself to other businesses to then get more work as part of like, obviously, you get on the books for a few people and stuff like that. But under that kind of method, you do run a business, but you are just subcontracting off someone else's name, which is the same premise as eBay. We're using eBay's good name to sell our products that weren't ours.
Yeah. No, but that's exactly what we're doing. And so it's interesting because you can very quickly fall into the mindset of, I work for eBay, eBay controls my business. And I find every time you get into that, that's when things start going very wrong in my business. Because if I start seeing customers as eBay's problem, do you know what I mean? You
I
very
do.
quickly take a negative turn in your business. Um, so I always try to be of the mindset that a lot of what I do is transferable, right?
Mhm.
I do rely on eBay's customer base right now. Um, but a lot of businesses rely on a lot of things. It's not just resellers that rely on platforms,
Mhm.
right?
That's true. Yep, it's not. There's like just from my previous background, if you were a contract nurse, you relied on a nursing agency to get you a job.
Yes.
Same premise.
So what's the difference then between seeing yourself as a business or just seeing yourself as a eBay employee? Why does it matter how you see yourself?
I think it's about accountability, and it's kind of bringing it back to like that thing that we talked about in the very first or second episode, where if you're fully accountable about all aspects, which it's like in a business, like you have to, in a job, you can kind of palm off responsibility to someone else and the accountability to someone else. Like, oh, I can list this and eBay has to sell it, whereas it doesn't have to sell. I can very much prove by the amount that I'm culling out my store at the moment that not everything sells. Um, and because of that, I would suggest that the difference, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, is that accountability and that responsibility that you take to try and level up and grow past the I'm just going to list this on a random Tuesday and not come back for 10 days.
I don't know anyone that's in a normal day-to-day job that have goals, like for the job. As in today, I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my job
Mm,
in 2 hours less, and I'm going to refine the processes because it doesn't matter. They have to be there till that time, anytime. So I think for personal or for growth in your business, it's important how you see yourself because I'm not setting myself goals for a dead end daily job. Why would I?
yeah.
Right? I have to be there anyway.
But
Secondly,
let's just explore that a little bit because you said if you're in a job, you don't have goals, but you might have financial goals that you try and get from your like salary. Like you might be deciding to put away 40% of your salary. And therefore you do have goals to try and get promotions and stuff like that. So that is very, in some ways, interchangeable.
yes, but
I know what you're saying. I'm just trying to challenge you.
no, no, I know, but it's not. Again, the goals are very much set by the opportunity someone else presents.
Yes, and you have to sometimes ask for those opportunities as well.
I like what you said about accountability. If it's just a job, then I don't have to be accountable for things like bad sales, customer service, those type of things. Where if it's my business and this is my processes, I
Mhm.
spend a lot more time learning the platform. I spend a lot more time investing in my customers. I spend a lot more time analyzing my sales, seeing what I can do to increase it. If you're just looking at it as we are just there to list for eBay and we're just the subcontractors, you just throw up as many listings as you can, and then when things don't sell, it's not your fault, it's eBay's fault. You don't want to invest in things like promoted listings or marketing, even though I think that's getting about ridiculous at this point. But anyway, why would you want to invest in that? Because it's not your responsibility to sell stuff, like you said.
Mhm.
And I think when you take the responsibility to sell stuff away from yourself, that's when very quickly you see people maybe not able to make such a success of reselling.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people trying to step back and from the full time into the part time again. Because I don't know about over there, but here, like the unemployment rate's going back
Yeah.
up, and there's a lot of companies closing and a lot of stores for branches closing, and a lot of them are more focusing on their online sales. It appears that people haven't gone back to like in store purchases post COVID as much as they might have in the beginning. Um, so there's just a lot changing on the landscape here, and people seem to be a little bit more like cautious about their spending. So perhaps some online sales have slowed down a little bit for people, and they're trying to find that um, comfort back with a secured paycheck. And that's ultimately what a job like fundamentally gives you is security regarding what you will take home.
I think it's interesting because a lot of people are feeling very hard done by platforms at the minute. The rising costs of everything in the last couple of years, I always get a sense that some people feel like the platforms are more than willing to pass the cost on to us,
Yeah.
but resellers aren't willing to pass the cost on to the consumers. We just kind of have to absorb it. And those that do try to pass it on to the customer, that usually ends up in slower sales. So the postage cost goes up, the fee
Yeah.
cost goes up. We get all these new promoted listing rates. eBay just charges us more, so they remain on a level footing.
Yeah.
We're not able to pass that on to customers because then you price yourself out of the market.
Yeah, you do actually,
And I
because
think,
there's only
yes,
so much people will pay for postage as well. Like
correct.
eventually it's going to get to like $15 and no one's going to pay for that for like one top. It's not going to happen.
So a lot of people feel that we are kind of the end sponge that just have to keep like absorbing the cost, absorbing the cost. But what's happening is a lot of products are now becoming obsolete. Like it's just not worth it for people to buy it anymore. Why would I buy this for that price and that price? It's not worth that much. But if we're stuck in a mindset of where we don't want to adapt the products, then this becomes a problem very quickly, right? If I want to keep selling the same products with this all happening in the last couple of years, I think that's where you can get stuck. And if you're not a business, again, this comes back to the mentality of, do I have an actual business or is this just a job?
Mm.
Where if it's my business, I want to adapt and change the products. If this is just a job, then, well, those are just the products. If I get employed to
Yeah.
process these products, that's the products I'm going to process. If this is my business, then I want to evolve my products to suit the changes in the market. And so what I'm trying to get at is, it's the mindset you have about changes or hardships is so different depending on how you view yourself and what you're doing.
Oh yeah. I almost feel like you're not like living if you're not trying to like overcome some sort of challenge somewhere, because I find that's where you grow the most, is when you're squeezed to the point where you have to be like, okay, I need to change something. Like something has to change, either me, the business, whatever, like, but something has to change.
Yeah. And I don't think it's as much about having a label, like saying, well, I'm a business. I ticked all the boxes. I'm a business. Yeah, I think for me, it's a lot more about the internal mindset you have on the things. Like when I get really despondent, and I do, sometimes I do get really mad at eBay and I get mad at customers and I'm like, screw this. I'm sorry for this. But I usually find myself in those instances not having the mentality of what is best for my business, and more having like a, well, I'm justified in acting this way because of what's happened to me or what they're doing to me or how this customer is acting or how the, where if you flip it over and you're like, yes, this is going on and this customer is this way, but this is my business. I've built this, I own this. I have to treat it with respect. I have to take pride in it. Then I don't want my business to reflect that attitude.
Yeah, and if you can find ways to like, so this is one of my hacks. I have a ChatGPT subfolder, where if there's like an annoying question that I don't want to answer, but would ultimately result in either not getting some sort of defect on my account if I addressed it, or if I was to answer the question, I'd be able to generate another sale. I have taught ChatGPT that if I send a screenshot, it just pumps out one of the responses tailored to that person and their message, and I can copy and paste it in to lower the amount of frustration and friction that I have within my business. But I feel like one of my biggest superpowers in my business is to be able to sit and deal with the level of frustrations that occur every day, because I am a very like I will ruminate, and I will therefore kind of like avoid confrontation and friction. But the moment that I was able to sit in that in multiple different ways, I was able to elevate up the business, um, because it's pretty much always now some level of like friction or frustration.
Did I message you one day? I think I did. I was listening to a podcast and someone said, amateurs operate in the emotional realms. And I was like,
You did
oh,
not message that, but that would have hit.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I did. That was incredible. And I was like, you know what? Why is this me? Like, why do I spend so much time on the emotion of something when we have processes for everything else? Why don't we have processes for dealing with things that evoke emotional responses in us? Like this morning, I had a customer message me saying, I got the part Thursday when he bought the part. He said to me, it doesn't matter if it fits his car, he'll keep it for stock. So I was like, no worries. I sent the part out. Then he messages me today and say, well, it didn't fit the car, but he's willing to keep it if I give him X amount of partial refund because he can get it for X amount from here. And, you know, and then I'm sitting there and I'm going like, and it took 10 minutes of my day of internal arguing to decide how I'm going to deal with this situation, because how I want to deal with it and how I want my business to reflect dealing with these situations are two very different things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so eventually I just copy and pasted my AI response of, so sorry to hear you're not happy with the part. I do offer 30-day free returns. I'm more than happy to provide you with a label if you follow these steps through eBay. Have a great day. I haven't heard back from him, although he'll probably get a negative, or I don't know what the case is. But the thing is, I've lost 10 minutes of my day on this just because I haven't mastered the ability to have a process for things that invoke that type of emotion in me. I get it so bad that, like, for that 10 minutes, I couldn't paste the response I know I needed to give. because I didn't want to. Like, I wanted to apply and be like, are you having a laugh?
You're so funny. We're also very similar because that used to be me.
No, hey, but this is the thing though. If it was a job,
Mm.
I don't think I would have always had the restraint to be like, but because this is a direct reflection on something I'm so passionate about and something I care about so much and something I've worked so hard on, I have the ability to sit back and go, oh, you just need to be angry, and then this is what we're doing. Like, this is what we're doing. It doesn't matter.
It's also not just that you've worked so hard on the business. Like, from where I sit, I feel like you've worked very hard on yourself as well. Like, your ability to manage time, to step outside your comfort zone and make those connections because you're in a male dominated field. I would imagine that's actually quite difficult to pick up the phone and call places to be able to be like, hey, can I buy your parts? Um, so I feel like both for you, and this is certainly my story. My business grows when I grow
Yeah,
when the business grows. And if I heard a quote, and I don't know who it was, but they said, if you win $1 million, you very quickly better become a mental millionaire, because if not, you'll have no money. And it's
yeah.
similarly, if you build your business accidentally, which is pretty hard, to a high operating level, you better be the person that can operate that, or else something will go wrong inevitably.
I see a lot of this stuff like in different verbiage online at the
Mm.
minute, but I think I've been listening a lot to a guy called John Rohn. Is it? Is that his name? Or
I have no idea
Jim
who that is.
Rohn? My bad. Anyway, he's from like the 70s and the 80s, but that man is still as relevant today as it was then. And basically, if you want to grow your business, if you want to grow your life, if you want to grow yourself first. Because
Absolutely.
when you grow yourself, what you're willing to settle for, what you're willing to do grows with you. But if you're trying to
Totally.
force the self of you now to do what the self of you that needs to grow do, that's when you get burnt out. That's when you get unmotivated. That's when you get frustrated. Like, and there's something to be said maybe for just doing it and growing as you do it. I understand that. But how many people are putting actual time daily into growing and evolving themselves?
Would love to know some statistics on that.
Because
Um,
naturally my business elevates when I grow myself, like emotionally, spiritually, I'm growing a lot more, and that allows me to level up my business, as in not tell this guy what I think about him, but to no, but it's something as simple as
I
that,
know.
that now I have the ability, and even though sometimes it still takes me a bit of time, if you knew where I came from, like that
Oh,
would have wrecked my
I
whole
know,
business.
Hamley.
No, I
I know.
know. But my business can't take those steps up
Mm,
if I didn't.
of course. And if you want to operate at a really high level, like with direct lines to dealerships or however you're going to strategically place yourself, the person that goes, haha, that didn't fit, suck it, or whatever to that buyer cannot walk into a room with like a board of executives and speak the same way. So, how you speak to everyday people is ultimately how you will be reflected when you walk into those meetings at the end of the day, because that's who you are. And at
Yes.
your core, it's very hard to hide that for an extended period of time.
One of the biggest things I'm working on myself, and this is a long process, is letting go of my self-proclaimed need for justification and to be justified and to have justice served. Wait, though, like for instance,
We're
this
the
guy.
same person.
No, I know, but for instance, people like, and this might sound crazy to some people, but I do have a massive thing about like, I want what's right to be right.
Yeah.
Like,
You're a
how
justice warrior.
you said it didn't matter if it fit your car. Now it matters. You want me to give a refund. How about no? How about I teach you a lesson in life and reality? How about I put my foot down and I'll be the one to show you how life really works? Why, Sam? He asked for £3.
That's nothing. It's like
Like,
that's a rounding error on your accounts at the end of the year, Hanley.
No, but really, and that's something that's gone in my way in life so much, is this need to like, why? It doesn't matter. The only reason I said to him return it for a refund is because the return label cost me less than £3.
Yeah, feckle. Yep.
So I was like, I'll send it back. If he asked for less than the return label, I would have just given him the money and moved on with my life. But I didn't want to, and it would have taken me time. But still, like, it's not my job to correct every wrong, and it's not my job to impose the penalty I see fit on someone because they're not behaving the way I think they should behave, right? And as soon as you can let go of that, the business becomes so much easier, people. So
So
much easier.
I am also a justice warrior. I will go to town if I feel like you've been experienced injustice, or I have. If anyone wrongs anyone I care about, like I'm there. But over time, I've had to learn that it's not my business.
No,
Not everything is my business. I don't have
no.
the right to know about everything. I am purely in control of this, and that is
Yes.
it. The energy that circles around me, not mine.
No. And
And you
I
can't
think,
control how someone else will react. So if that person wanted £3 and went against, you can't control that. You can only control how you respond to that. That's it.
but not if you don't invest in actual personal growth. Like if you're not willing
Correct.
to grow yourself and get out of that mentality, then that's where you get stuck, and that's where I was stuck for a long time. But anyway, we get off course.
No, no,
The
no, no. Let's keep going.
Yes.
How did you grow? That's the question.
Oh, um, I personally, for me, I found the Lord. So I know that I can't point you to a self-help. Oh, I can point you to a self-help book. It's called the Bible. Um, but I think for me, I just found what was really true and right for me, and something I can point my compass at, a set of values I want to live by, uh, a moral compass that shows how I want to live my life and what things are important to me and what I relate to. And I think oftentimes when we're so flooded on Instagram with this one says this is right, that one says that is right, that one says you have to do this to get there, this one says you have to do that workout routine, that one says you have to take collagen, that one says like if we have no, but this is it's really hard. This
Right.
assumption. But if we don't have a compass that points to our truth, right? And
Mhm.
the truth and what is right, and we don't have that in our life, that's why we get scattered and we get confused. Because if you look at something through the glasses of I know where my compass points, it's a lot easier to say that's not relevant, that's not relevant, that's not relevant. But if you don't have that, right, then you fall to everything. You're going to fall to everyone's opinion. Because this guy is a certified personal trainer and he said I should eat carrots and take collagen 5 times a day. And so who am I to argue with you? No, but no, I'm just
No, yeah, I know
trying.
you're right. I know. It's correct.
And
You
so
have to
for
be able to
me,
filter what you see.
yes. And for me, again, coming back to this customer, the only reason I treat it in that way is because that's what my beliefs are. That's how I should treat people regardless of my feelings, right? And so that's how I'm able to grow in that situation. But if you don't have that grounding in your life, you will be how I was before. And
Yeah.
which is chaotic and a mess and up and down and a roller coaster and no stability. And today customers get treated nicely. Tomorrow we're burning them at the stake. Like,
Don't even. Not even. It's not even the next day. It could be the next 10 minutes.
no, exactly. Like,
Correct.
yes. And so that was really hard, but you have to be willing to work on yourself. And for me, having that in my life has just changed everything.
That makes complete
Also,
sense.
my daily devotional for today, since I have you all here on the internet and I'll spread the gospel of the Lord. Anyway, it says, nothing worth doing is accomplished solely through feelings. It takes action.
That's very relevant.
How relevant is that? Do you
Yeah,
know what I
that
mean?
especially to this topic.
But don't act on the bad feelings.
Well, I mean, I, I'm a big firm believer that if you keep pushing down the bad feelings and don't like feel them at some point, you will erupt in some sort of like negative outburst. So I do think that we need to feel our feelings, but we don't necessarily have to act on those feelings.
this has gone completely off the rails, and I love that.
Totally.
Totally off the rails. What we're trying to say is that it
We're a
how
business.
yes, how you view yourself is important to the decisions you're going to make when you're doing what you're doing every day. We all wake up every day. We all have certain tasks we have to perform in the business. How you view yourself, how you view what you're doing has a massive impact on how you're going to do that task, which is why we're having the conversation of, is this just a job? Am I just doing this to get by? Or is this a business? Because to me personally, that would make a massive difference in my day.
Oh, for sure. I also, and this is kind of segueing back to where we were, but kind of not, and I'm going to kind of link it to the business thing. Um, but I feel like when you have a job, you can snooze your alarm and you can roll into work and you can be 10 minutes late and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
No one really cares. But I find as a business owner and linking it to how I feel, because I am the business, if I say to myself the night before I go to sleep, I'm going to set my alarm for 5, and I snooze and I snooze, I've already broken one promise to myself for the day before the day has even started. So I've already let my boundaries regarding my business slip before my feet have even hit the ground, like before I've even really opened my eyes. And
Yeah.
I've found over time, the more and more of those that I let slip and I break promises to myself and the goals that I'm hitting, the worse it's been in terms of my business outcomes. So when I set something and I set it with intention and really work towards it, I find that the more, like, the simplest way to improve is to keep stacking the amount of promises you keep to yourself. Like, my life is so much better because I say I'm going to do something and I show up for myself day
Yeah.
in, day out. And then in turn, my business grows.
That's very hard because I find it easier to keep promises and commitments to other people than I do
Okay.
myself. And so
Yep.
in that situation, I might thrive more in a job situation where I have a boss because I
Yeah.
find that easier to keep the commitments and the promises than I do to myself. I'll make excuses to myself a lot quicker than I will to a superior in that case.
Totally.
So,
It's
like
interesting.
getting up in the morning sometimes is really hard, especially in the summer holidays when the kids don't have school run and you know, that's not there, it's not needed. I can get it done later. To try to keep yourself stable in those times can be very difficult. Where if I had a job, I would have to be there at a certain time.
Yeah. And I think that can be a big separator between what's like the business mentality of someone versus what's a job mentality. Like with a business, like you have to get it done, but
Yeah.
it's easier to get it done if you just make the commitment and do it at the time that you've committed to doing it rather than because you get this like and I get this. I don't know, it's I assume it's the same for you, but I break that promise and then I reinforce the negative narrative in my head that it's like I knew you'd do this, and then I
Yeah.
start beating myself down and then I'm already deflating myself. So then my desire to go chase down that bigger goal is
Yeah.
when I can't even get out of bed and I've already beat myself up for the last hour about running late for the day, um, makes it really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of times we look at this conversation and like what are we, are we what, because we want the external label when I think the internal one matters so much more. Like if I
Sure.
myself believe, I don't really care if you believe I have a business or not. That doesn't, like, that's not why we have the conversation. We have because whether you believe I have a business or not doesn't actually change what I have to get up and do today. Like your perception of what it is I have going on has nothing to do with my reality, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not about, do I get to walk around suppliers and say I'm a business owner? That doesn't matter at all. Because at the end of the day, you're either going to solve a problem for them, make the money, or they're not going to do business with you. Whether you're a sole trader, a business, it doesn't matter. It matters more internally what you see this as. Do you see this as an opportunity you're in control of and that you can build? Or do you see this as just what I have to do every day to pay the bills? We all start out there, right? Like, this is what I have to do every day to pay these bills. But do you want to break out of that?
Mm.
Because the mentality has to change.
I'm curious, do you think that a lot of those advances has been you becoming more and more confident within yourself to be able to not necessarily say, I'm a business owner, but walk into the room and make those connections because you carry yourself differently, because you have started internally being like, this is my business, like I am this individual?
Yes. And also with that comes the realization of whose opinion then actually matters,
Mm.
right? And once you're able to lose that, like the weight of all of that, you're different. You walk different, you think different, you do things different because you no longer care about who's looking. You only care about who is it affecting because you want it to affect the right person, not what they think. They don't need to understand what's happening. They don't need to understand why I'm doing this. I don't need to justify myself to them. I don't care if they think I look silly doing this. It doesn't matter because the person I'm trying to target is responding correctly to what I'm doing. And that's what matters, right?
For sure. I could not agree with you anymore. So I had a meeting with a broker last week to be like, hey, Mr. Bear that has connections at the bank, loan me some money.
Yeah.
Um, and he had taken the initiative because I emailed him off my business email to Google what it was. And so he already knew what I was doing. So, because it got to him like asking about the business, and I was like, oh, how do I actually present this? Because normally in conversations, I just try to avoid because I don't like labels and stuff like that. I just tend to ask the person about themselves rather than talking about
Yeah.
myself. Um, and I was like, how do you say that I saved all this money from selling used clothes? Like, it that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But because he had Googled it, that had overcome. And I realized is like, through not talking about it, um, I am not confident about talking about it. So there is for me, I guess a level of I need to be more like, hey, I'm here. This is what I do. Here's like, you do that every day through your networking. I don't. Like, I have my
Yeah.
connections and I'm good. Like, I'm happy. So I feel like I need to really work on that moving into this next stage.
I would just really, I don't think people realize how much your life changed when you actually only focus on the opinion of the people that impact your life and your future. Like, up until as recently last year, I would argue, are we business or not, for the sake of getting the approval and recognition of other resellers. Like, I want you all to know this is a business, and I want you all to know you have businesses because somehow I thought that elevated my, I don't even know. Yes, my being. If we all agree these is businesses, then that elevates my being. So I need everyone to agree that this is a business, right? Where now, I don't care if you think it's a business or not. I know it's a business, and that my mentality and what I do every day and how that affects my family, the people that matters, how that affects the confidence with which we market ourselves, how that affects the confidence in which we go into deals. That's what matters. And that's what I'm trying to relate to people. If you are already not confident in yourself about what you do, like you're saying, Sam, like you sometimes feel like, I don't want to say this to people. I
It's
think
so
it's absolutely disgusting that you people touch secondhand clothing. I think about it all the time. Like the
it
only thing
really is
that
gross.
it's nasty.
It
The only
is.
thing that's stopping me from not having a package stuff for 2, 3 hours a day is touching people's used clothes, and I refuse. I refuse. I cannot.
I could tell you some horror stories,
I
but I
don't want to
won't.
know. I don't want to. But
Mm.
if you walk with that mentality about your business all the way, it doesn't matter what the people that aren't part of the process think, but it is going to matter how you approach the people that can matter.
Correct. Yeah. And they
And
don't
that's
tend
a
to
big
care.
thing. Like, there's such a massive thing in the community about, like, we need to build relationships, we need to find relationships, we need to find partners, we need to, but we're still out here not even confident in what we do. Why would someone want to partner or work with you when you don't even know what you're doing? Like, you can't even decide in your own head what it is that's going on here.
We can't even get up when we set our alarms.
Don't come for me.
Mrs. I only got up like an hour and 15 ago.
No, but really, and I think
I know.
what we're trying to do is like talk about the way you decide you want to be is going to affect the way you approach things, you approach people, what you reflect outside. Did I, in that conversation with that customer, did I want him to know this is a one-man business that takes everything emotionally, or did I want him to think this is a professional business that handles their stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. And to be honest, most people who are like in a higher position don't care that you're a reseller. They care either that you're solving a problem for them, you have money to give them, or you have like in my instance with the broker, enough savings that they're like, oh, you are a legit, like this is legitimate. Okay,
Yes.
cool. Let's go. So it is less about what we do and how we present what we do.
And the results of what we do.
Correct. That's so important.
Yes. So what makes it legitimate? Who decides what legitimate is? My opinion, and this is just my opinion, what makes it legitimate is results.
Mm. Yeah.
Like,
I
are you actually
agree
able
with
to generate the revenue and the profit? Because again, there's a lot of people who know how to generate revenue, but it's not coming out on the other side into profit. There's a lot of people who
that.
are very good at generating profit, but not at a scale that they're able to maintain, you know, the income that they need to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand that there's also stepping stones that you need to do on the way to being able to get to that um, income that you need to be able to withdraw in terms of profit. And I think sometimes we maybe think that we're more profitable than we are. I certainly did until I had to withdraw a wage because it was my only income. And I realized very quickly that I wasn't as profitable as I was. And I had maybe over embellished what I was capable of doing. And when we get down to like the nitty gritty, like you need to get into the finite detail to be able to know how much you need to list and therefore sell to be able to generate that.
Yeah,
And best case scenario is being able to work while you're doing that to be able to scale up without friction
yeah,
or too much friction.
I agree.
Mm.
I think just to leave everyone with, it doesn't really matter what the popular opinion is about whether you're a business, you have a job, you're a subcontractor. You need to decide which one of those is going to have the biggest positive effect on your mentality in your business. If you feel better just this being just a job for you, you just want to pay your bills with it because you've got other things going on, and that's fine
Mm.
as well. Like, you don't need to box yourself into whatever the popular opinion is. For me, I look at myself as a business, because it gives me the drive and the mentality to push forward. And I would feel very caged in if I woke up every morning and told myself this is just a job, and with the aspirations I have, that would not fit. So, um,
I would just add that, in my opinion, you need to stop worrying about all those things and just be happy. Like, we've forgotten that, like, all of this was meant to be designed to make our lives happier and better. So get back to like the core of why we all did this because life was
yeah,
fun.
we were all trying to get away from something, right?
Yeah,
Why we,
to find happiness. Why make something to replace what you were unhappy about?
yeah,
Hmm.
that's very thought provoking.
Well,
So,
it's at the end of the day, you can't take the business with you. All you
no,
can take is
no,
your memories with you. That's it. When you're frail and whatever home that your kids choose to put you in, Hanley, after you make them rich and they squander all the money, whatever public housing home that they put you in, all you have is your memories. You don't have the business anymore. So if you
that's
don't
funny.
live happily, then there's no point.
I I don't look at my business anymore as it's going to generate me money, it's going to generate me assets, it's going to generate me. I look at my business as it's going to generate opportunities.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
It's not about the figure of money anymore. It's not about the status of the money anymore, which up until maybe even as long as a year ago, it really was. I want
Yeah.
that amount of money to afford that amount of things to afford. And now I very much, with the personal growth, have the mindset of this. If I do this to this extent, it affords me these opportunities. And the opportunities have also changed. It affords me financial stability. It affords me experiences with my kids. It affords me, you know what I mean? And
Oh
so
yeah.
to get away from very much stop chasing the pounds
Mm.
and chase the opportunities. Like, I need to get to this level to have this opportunity. I need to get to this level to provide this. I need to get to that in itself just makes it so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So much more.
I think we can all do what we want much sooner than we think we can. We just tell
Yes.
ourselves we can't. Like,
Yes.
if I wanted to right now, I could just pack it all up, sell everything, and just go traveling. And we could do it. If we liquidated everything, we could probably just stay overseas in a cheap, like foreign country for the rest of our lives if that's what we wanted to do. Like, we could do it now. There's nothing stopping me
Yes.
apart from myself.
We've been lied to about what the standard of life is that we need. You don't need half of the crap that we've been told we need, and you have to work for, and you have to strive for, and you have to achieve, and you have to all these things. Financial stability, right, can be at any level.
Do you know it's the leading cause of divorce? Is like a marriage can withstand infidelity, but it cannot survive. 90, I think it's actually like 75% of all marriages are because of financial stress. Divorce because of financial stress.
Because people live above their means, but that's a discussion for another day.
Maybe next week.
Maybe next week. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.